Morning and a good Chodesh. Chodesh. Okay, so we are finishing up, getting towards the end of chapter 299. Now, the rest of the the rest of the chapter of this of the Shulchan Aruch of this chapter mostly comes from the tractate Shabbos. The first half mostly came from our Gemara Psachim, which described the laws of Havdalah, right? The laws of eating before Havdalah, eating during Havdalah, eating during Havdalah, the proper formulation of Havdalah, combining Havdalah with Kiddush, the fact that one shouldn't eat before Havdalah unless they started early enough, right? That most of that all comes from our Gemara. And the next half, which is about refraining from work before making Havdalah, that comes from Masechta Shabbos, but nonetheless, it's still part of the same subject. And because we're not learning Masechta Shabbos, so we're just going to go through this part to finish off, to close off the story, and then we'll get back to our Gemara. Some of it is borrowed from our Gemara also, and you'll see how in some cases it's related, but mostly it comes from the Gemara and Shabbos.
Refraining from work, is that
before Havdalah?
If you extend your
that's what we're going to talk about now, yeah, exactly. Right, so of course one can't work on Shabbos here because here we're talking about the ability to be able to do Havdalah late, which means Shabbos is extended, and elsewhere there's a separate section in the Shulchan Aruch, a separate chapter, Tafsir Sadi Gimel, I think it's 293, I think it is. Yeah, where there he talks about adding to the Shabbos by extending the day. So let's see. Halacha 15, Tezvav. Shabbos, even though Shabbos is now out, but she added from his weekday into Shabbos. So he extended the Shabbos. And we discussed earlier some of the options. For example, in this chapter, we discussed the manner in which he does so, either because he just delayed Havdalah, or as you learned earlier, he delayed Havdalah because he started his meal so early, and his meal is extending into Saturday night, and he's allowed to do so. Right? It was the first half of the chapter. Nonetheless, because he extended Shabbos, notwithstanding the fact that Shabbos is technically over, it is forbidden for a person to do his personal work, his personal desires, before he accompanies the king. The king being Shabbos king. We often hear Shabbos queen. Shabbos queen is a Kabbalistic idea. But in Halacha, Shabbos is the king. Or Hashem is the king who is present on Shabbos. So a person's not to do his work until he accompanies the king, to say, properly says goodbye to the Shabbos. Tahainu, specifically what is this? Sheyavdil, that he make Havdalah, he declares a separation between the weekday and the Shabbos. Oy alakois, either on his cup of wine, oy betfila, or on his davening. Once he's done either of those, then he may do his personal work. His Shabbos is over. Vafilu chafotzim, even such work that is forbidden on Shabbos only by rabbinic decree, not by biblical decree. Nonetheless, it's still forbidden to do so until he properly declares the ending of Shabbos, and that's his way of accompanying Shabbos out by thanking Hashem for the separation between Shabbos and weekday. Parentheses. I'm not sure why this is parentheses. Again, perhaps it's not that it's Chiddush. Aval bat isurde divrei sof matluim b'dibur. Rabbinic prohibitions that are dependent on speech. So let's say talking about my travel plans for tomorrow, which could be a rabbinic prohibition on Shabbos. Those kinds of things are for reasons explained in chapter 263, where there he explains things that are forbidden for to speak about on Shabbos by rabbinic decree. Those are allowed after Shabbos is over, even though before a person made Havdalah, chutz, with the exception of bakashas tzrachav, making personal requests. Right? We have a prohibition on Shabbos. We do not ask Hashem for personal needs and things that we lack of. Little known halacha, and sometimes overlooked at halacha, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole right now. We discussed it some other times. But the overall prohibition is that one does not ask Hashem for personal requests on Shabbos. And the reason is because it reminds us of what we're lacking, and that on Shabbos, we are supposed to live like everything is perfect. Everything is perfect on Shabbos. We have all we need. We are not stressed or worried about anything. So asking Hashem for things we miss, we lack, is a way of reminding us of all the things we miss, and that's forbidden on Shabbos. Yes, there are times in the Siddur when we do ask Hashem for requests. How do we do that? Why do we do that? This is a big question that all the halacha commentators discuss. Why is it that in the Siddur we have a bunch of things in which we ask Hashem for requests, and how do we circumvent this prohibition? Good question, not for now. I once wrote about it with regards to the Mishaberach. There's a special formulation for the Mishaberach. You look very carefully at the formulation. The Mishaberach is healing is coming. We don't ask Hashem that you please heal the sick. We don't do that. We'll look carefully at the text. You'll see. Others don't say that way, and it's also discussed, but we're going to leave it alone. There's lots on that subject. At any rate, this is one of the reasons, at least, why when we make Havdalah in our davening, Havdalah is in the first bracha. Right, the first three are praise of Hashem. The first bracha of request is Atachai Antanu. So right away you make Havdalah, and then you go on to make your requests. There's different reasons why Havdalah is related to Atachai Antanu, related to the blessing of Das, knowing how to distinguish between the holy and the mundane is a question of Das, of discernment. So it fits there as well. But there's another element in that this is the first bracha of request. And now that you've inserted Havdalah, now you can make the rest of your requests. So the point being, not that I'm saying, is that once Shabbos is over, but you are extending your Shabbos, you may speak about that which ordinarily the sages forbade speaking about. Say, my travel plans tomorrow, that you may speak about, even though you didn't make Havdalah. But you may not ask Hashem for requests at this juncture until you make Havdalah. Either Havdalah in prayer or Havdalah in the cup of wine. Continues. There are others who permit all kinds of rabbinic prohibitions that have no vestige of actual prohibition, and aren't prohibited because it might lead to doing something wrong. It's forbidden simply because it's mundane activity, not because there's any actual prohibition related to it. He puts in footnote 70 to look into 3231 for examples. An example there he's discussing is borrowing something from someone else. So I'm borrowing a cup of wine. One shouldn't use an exact measure, except then it becomes a mundane activity to do that measuring. Okay, measuring itself might be no, measuring is rabbinic, but here this is here you're talking about measuring. You're talking about the measure. Even that's a prohibition because you're speaking about that which is mundane. So within the halacha discusses all the details of how you borrow from someone else and how you can borrow from someone else in such a manner that you aren't, first of all, violating the prohibition of buying and selling on Shabbos, but also in a way that you're speaking is not mundane. You're not using mundane terminology, like making reference to certain specific coins or currencies, and making reference to specific measures and things of that nature. Again, the details are very involved, and you can look it up there to see more details.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Where it says al hakos o betfila, meaning even if you didn't do like properly at home after synagogue,
you can still do work. You can work.
It's not free.
That's right. So you can work.
The rest doesn't apply. You can talk.
You can do everything. This is talking about before Arvit, before the person did Havdalah either.
It's already it's Chag still.
So the person extended his Shabbos,
so
right?
That's the person who. Okay.
So he's sitting at that meal that he began early enough, and now it's going to an hour after Shabbos is over. So he's still in Shabbos mode. So all the prohibitions still apply to him, with the exception of these few things where he can speak. Rabbinic prohibitions in speech, he may do so. That's right. Rabbinic mundane only speech, he may do so. Yeah. Well, actually, here the second thing is talking about activities that are only because they're mundane.
They don't lead to Torah.
That's right. They have no. It's correct. They have no issue of shvus. It's called shvus. No issue that might lead you to do something, or it's closely resembling to a malacha.
It's not offense.
That's right. It's just don't do this because it's mundane. Okay. Tezayin.
Like an appearance.
Yeah.
Disrespect.
Yeah. So if you're unfamiliar with these things, just refrain from doing prohibited work until you make Havdalah, either davening or yeah.
It's interesting what Rambam says with regard to wine, dregs, and so on. He speaks about what can be done with it, how much you can actually, what can be done with the wine in order to have it. It's quite remarkable. Filtering can do all sorts of things.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, on Shabbos.
Yeah.
It's all sorts of examples dealing with wine that I thought that sort of like go
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that.
It discusses raisins as well. Yeah, all kinds of things.
Exactly.
It actually also discusses it in a few places. Anyway. Okay, Tezayin. If the person decides he wants to do complete and full prohibited work, but before he's had a chance to daven Arvit, to do Havdalah in davening, or before he made Havdalah on his cup of wine, he says, Baruch Hamavdil, he makes a declaration, blessed is the one who separates you to the holy and the mundane. That's it. Just that refrain. But without invoking God's name, nor God's sovereignty. Usually a bracha has God's name and sovereignty. Baruch Ato Hashem, Elokeinu, there's God's name. Melech HaOlam, King of the universe.
Right.
So he's skipping that whole part, making reference to God's name or God's sovereignty. But he just declares, blessed is the one who distinguishes between the holy and the mundane, Leheker B'alma. And that becomes like a demarcation, indicating I'm closing off the Shabbos. And that, Lelaves HaMelech, this then accompanies the king, because that was the issue. The issue is a person shouldn't do work until he said goodbye to the king. You say goodbye to the king by making this declaration. I'm now officially ending Shabbos. Thank you very much. And now beginning weekday. And you can do so just by saying this refrain, blessed is the one who separates between the holy and the mundane. And then he can do work. But nonetheless, it still remains forbidden to him to eat anything, as we've been discussing earlier in the chapter. Even if he already did his Havdalah in prayer. He also said Hamavdil, this refrain, but he cannot eat until he actually does Havdalah in the cup, as we discussed. Here's an important thing that could happen, which is a person did Arvit, but he forgot to say Atachan Tanu. He forgot to say the Havdalah in his Arvit. Now the halach is you don't repeat the Ma'ariv then. Why don't you repeat it? Because you're anyways going to be making Havdalah later. If you're doing that, you have to make sure that before that you don't do any malacha until you do the actual Havdalah on your cup, or say Baruch Hamavdil right away, because it's habitual. You're done Ma'ariv, you come home, turn the light on, turn the light off, check your phone, light your candle for Havdalah, but Shabbos hasn't ended yet. So if you forgot to say Baruch the Havdalah, the Atachan Antanu in your Ma'ariv, as soon as you remember, say Baruch Hamavdil right away. Because you're likely out of habit going to be doing malacha before you end up picking up your cup of wine for Havdalah. So this is a common thing that could happen. That's right. So it's just the point is as soon as you remember, oh my gosh, I forgot to say Atachan Antanu, right then say Baruch Hamavdil and Kodesh L'Chol, and that way your Shabbos is over and you can do your malacha.
But it's funny.
There's no issue of repetition of
Yes, that's why you're not saying
But you're not saying Hashem's name. You're not saying God's name.
That's why you don't say Hashem's
It's correct. You're not saying Hashem's name. It's a heker ba'alma,
That
a
was the
demarcation.
reason- That's the reason why you don't say it. Or one of the reasons.
Presumably, yeah. Because you're not doing any official blessing here. You're not holding a cup of wine and you're not in Ma'ariv.
Right.
But you're just making a
Doesn't-
demarcation, indicating I'm
doesn't-
ending
doesn't-
Shabbos, I'm saying goodbye to Shabbos and beginning the weekday. That's it. Heker ba'alma is the words you use. How does he translate heker ba'alma? He says, he makes some sort of distinction. Yeah, a demarcation. Okay.
Well, it's also like when you've accidentally eaten something before you made Havdalah, you're still allowed, as you learned yesterday, you're still allowed, when you remember.
Make Havdalah on that spot, yeah.
No, so there's no issue
Yeah, so like
of doing a bracha even though you've already.
Yeah. That's correct.
As
soon as you remember, you say Baruch Hamavdil, even if you've done malacha before. Right? So if you accidentally turned on a light and remembered, hey, I didn't make Atachan Antanu in Ma'ariv yet, do Baruch Hamavdil now for the next time you want to turn the light on. Right?
It's per instance.
Exactly. And you lose nothing because there's no God's name in there. You lose nothing by saying the refrain.
Right.
So might as well, you lose nothing.
But this gives you like an okay for melacha.
Yeah, for all
not
malacha.
to eat.
Sorry? But not to eat, because you still have an obligation to make Havdalah. So it's for malacha, your Shabbos is over, but you still have an obligation for Havdalah that doesn't allow you to eat until you fulfill that
It's
obligation.
funny 'cause
Yeah.
Melacha or whatever is the thing that's prohibited during Shabbos, not to eat.
Right. Because they're two separate issues. One is Shabbos is not over, you're not allowed to do work. Issue number one. Issue number two is when you have an obligation to do a mitzvah, in this case, to make Havdalah on a cup, you're not allowed to eat until you've done that mitzvah. Right? Because they're two separate concerns. Okay, Yud Zayin. This is also very practical. When Yom Tif falls on Saturday night, and you want to do work that is permitted on Yom Tif, but it's forbidden on Shabbos. So you want to cook for your Yom Tov meal. You want to heat up that soup. And the second Shabbos is over, the ladies are running to heat up that soup because you want it to be hot when everybody comes home from shul, which is only in a half hour from now. Now she didn't have Ma'ariv, and she's not going to hear Havdalah until Kiddush when you come home. She wants her to heat the seat up ready. So what should she do? So she wants to do malachat mutter on Yom Tov. Kaidim she'avdi b'tefillah before she's done, before there's Havdalah and davening. Again, you make that refrain, indicating demarking Shabbos is over. Blessed is the one who separates between the holy and the holy, because you're going from Shabbos to Yom Tov, without making mention of God's name or God's sovereignty, without making Baruch Hamavdil, without Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam. This is an important thing, as he's going to explain right now. This is a very important practical thing, because God forbid a person could be heating up their soup. They waited all the way till Shabbos is over to heat up their soup, but it's still Shabbos, even though technically the time and the clock changed. So they have to learn to do this. This is about to say now. These women who don't ordinarily daven Ma'ariv, and they're not necessarily required to daven Ma'ariv. Women are required only to daven once a day. At best, maybe Ma'ariv, like, okay, if you want, you can do more. Some do Mincha as well, but basically only obligated to daven once a day. So she's not doing Ma'ariv, nothing wrong. And therefore, Ein Mavdilas B'Tfilah, the Motzei Shabbos, they aren't making Havdalah during their davening on Motzei Shabbos because they're not doing Ma'ariv. Additionally, they aren't making Havdalah; they're waiting for their husbands to do so, or their fathers. So Yesh Lelamdan, they should learn. Loimar, to say, they should like make it habitual that they say Baruch Hamavdil Mukadosh L'Chol, blessed is the one who separates the holy and the mundane. Koydem Asizis Malacha, before they do Malacha, Lefnei Havdalah Shalakos, before the Havdalah will be declared on a cup of wine. So as soon as Shabbos is over, women should know Baruch Hamavdil Mukadosh L'Chol, or on Yom Tov, Shabbos going to Yom Tov, Baruch Hamavdil Mukadosh L'Chol. It should become a habit. I mean, as a kid, I remember this. Growing up, as soon as like there's the announcement in the house, Shabbos is over, and I hear my mother saying out loud, Baruch Hamavdil Mukadosh L'Chol, and then we start cleaning up start putting away the dishes, turning on the dishwasher, and getting ready for Havdalah. As a kid, not going, before I started going to shul. It's like in the house. It's in the it's in the home routine. Shabbos is over. Like my sisters and mother screaming, Shabbos is over, and the loud declaration Baruch Hamavdil Mukadosh L'Chol was part of the official announcement that Shabbos is over.
So
Turn the computer on, check your phone, all the rest of it.
how come there's so much, like, I find leniency around this whole issue? No,
Because it's a simple line.
Something and then
It's just
I'm talking about like Havdalah in general, about how you could do it when you want, or how you could this,
okay. Because that's right. Because
Even
it's
until Wednesday.
because
and then
that's
she
right.
just says a
That's
line
right.
and she's
At the end of the day, we you're right. There's two things at once.
Usually
Which is
it's like you
there's
do
a
this
mitzvah of
and
Havdalah
that's
which
it.
makes it special. But on the other hand, there's also you sorry. You want to hold on to
there's so
Shabbos.
many other
You want to hold on to
topics,
Shabbos.
So you could say we're human for.
You want to hold on to Shabbos, right? There's this part that you want to hold on to Shabbos. So we're allowing you to hold on to Shabbos as much as you can.
I think
So as soon as you've said goodbye to it, it's over. But we want you to hold on to Shabbos as much as you can, right? So this is like that. There's that tension there.
if there weren't these leniencies, people may just say it's too hard and not do it at all.
That's also a possibility.
I'm saying, it gives people an opportunity to say, okay, I made a mistake, but I could still hang on to it. And still do it.
Yeah. Especially the women issue. If they have to wait till their husbands come home to make Havdalah, and there's a farbrengen going on in shul, she's going to be waiting till 10, 11 o'clock at night till she can check her phone, until she can clean the house. It's not fair. Let her get on with it.
Yeah, but then we have no problem on Friday night making everybody wait until 10 at night to eat. So I don't think it's like,
But this way,
It's either Friday. You can take Shabbos early too if you wanted to. I don't know.
when it come late, then they eat.
On Saturday night.
Yeah, Saturday.
They might have to wait till after Havdalah.
By saying.
I think they have to wait till after they hear Havdalah on the cup.
So they do wait.
I believe so. Yeah.
So they would wait till
Yeah.
10 o'clock.
Husbands shouldn't be making their wives wait, or they can make Havdalah on their own. They can pick up a cup of wine and do it themselves. Yeah, they could. At any rate, here he goes. If they don't know how to say Hamavdil, then they can hear it from someone else. Now, if they end up doing work before they hear Baruch Hamavdil, Don't stop them. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Why?
You shouldn't save them, save it.
Hold on a second. So he starts up by saying you have to train them. So they should learn to do that. They shouldn't do so. But if they don't do so, don't attack them. Why? Because there are those that say the prohibition is only elam malachis gemuras, absolute full-on prohibitions. Going kaisev, like writing va'odig and weaving v'chativas eitzim, chopping wood and the like. Avalat lakas ner ba'alma, but just the lighting a candle, or carrying from one domain to another, the tilkal dal amas b'shashabim, or carrying 4 cubits in the public, she'en bem terach klal, which doesn't have any lot of effort, like asur klal, it's not forbidden. Now this is a very, very interesting a very interesting classification. We define malacha on Shabbos not as exertive effort. That's not what it is. It's a question of creative work, which can be very simple. Strike a match. Not difficult. But, says this opinion, when it comes to extending the Shabbos and the prohibition from doing work before you said goodbye to Shabbos, it's not a question of violating Shabbos, because Shabbos is over. It's a question of disrespect to the Shabbos because you haven't said goodbye yet. And the disrespect is only when you do exertive efforts. And therefore, if you're doing small, easy stuff, no big deal.
It's not so much creative work at this point.
So it's not malacha. It's not a question of violating the Shabbos. Shabbos is over. It's a question of disrespect, which is only when it's exertive work, right? So turning the flame on and putting a pot on the table, okay, no, not the biggest deal, right? Okay, so now it's hard to define because what happens if she starts vacuuming? Does that count as exertive work or not? I don't know. So, but he is saying, be a nice husband. Don't start attacking her for not saying Baruch HaMavdil, because she can rely on this opinion. As he goes on to say, even though this is not the primary opinion, because it's a b'diavad thing, that's right. The allowance to do work that doesn't have effort is only in line with the view that says this is the same opinion which says you can't do any work until you've done malacha, until you've done Havdalah on your cup, even after. In other words, there's another opinion which says that even when you've done Havdalah and Ma'ariv, you may not do work until you've done Havdalah on your cup.
Which kind of, you mean creative one?
What? The work that's difficult. In other words, the one that allows you, the one that allows you to do non-difficult work before you do Havdalah is the same opinion which says difficult work may not be done until after you do Havdalah on your cup. The same opinion. And we don't rely on that. Not for this way, not for that way. We do not. We don't accept it because we allow all malacha after you're done Havdalah and Ma'ariv. Even difficult work. So you can't have it both ways, is what he's saying. But nonetheless, you don't have to pounce on these women for making the mistake because there is opinion to rely on.
But it's beautiful. But that's basically a bigger atmosphere when it was possible. Shalom bite. Exactly.
Yes, exactly. So let's read it again. So even though this opinion is not the primary one, and the leniency to allow for non-exertive malacha to be done before Havdalah, before any Havdalah, before Ma'ariv, is only in accordance with the view that says, even though the person said his Havdalah in davening, in his Arvit, and he made the refrain, Baruch HaMavdil, without God's name, he's forbidden to do work all the way till he's done making Havdalah on the cup. Because according to this view, at least, the malacha for non-exertive work, it is permitted the moment you make Havdalah on your cup, because you light the candle for Havdalah, even according to this opinion. But before you've done Havdalah in prayer, there's no allowance for any work. Even work that is forbidden rabbinically, at least, if you didn't make the refrain of Hamavdil. So because it's an opinion that we don't rely on with respect to prohibiting work until you've done Havdalah, we're also not going to use it as an opinion that allows you to do non-exertive work before Havdalah. And consequently, we don't rely on this as a main opinion But unless there is that which to rely on if they don't know how to do so. Right? And therefore, nonetheless, the women who do this, you don't have to go stop them.
Wait, is it saying that people who do Havdalah in Mars shouldn't do exertive work until they do the cup of Havdalah?
That's what it seems like, according to that opinion. According to that opinion, yeah.
Not for people who haven't done either.
According to that opinion, yeah. So again, later right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Aval, but so now because of this, Aval, therefore, Aval im hein oisis malachas gemuras, if they're doing actual full-on labor, I'm not sure how to define that, but they're chopping wood for the fireplace.
Sweating.
Then you have to stop them, because now all opinions say it's forbidden to do so until you've declared an actual distinction between Shabbos and Yom Tov.
Becomes strenuous.
That's right. Therefore, it should be publicly taught that people should teach their daughters growing up that as soon as Shabbos is over, say Hamavdil. I told you this is what happened in my home. Growing up, my mother and my sisters says Shabbos is over, Hamavdil, and that was the part of the declaration. Because many of them, the second Shabbos is over, will chop down wood, heat up the fire, and to boil a new pot of hot water for Matzah Shabbos. Right? Because they want to have their tea. Now you just turn on the flame, but it used to be, the wood's been burning since Saturday night. You gotta chop down wood to make a new fire, to warm the house up, to make your tea. So we should be teaching our daughters and wives to be saying Baruch Hamavdil second, as soon as Shabbos is over. Okay, one more halacha which closes out this subject, and then tomorrow the rest of the chapter, which is some other customs related to Matzah Shabbos. Okay. All this that we just said in the previous chapter, previous halacha. With respect to teaching women or stopping women who don't know how to say Hamavdil from doing certain works that are forbidden, it's true for women. But men, men are forbidden to do any work at all before they say Hamavdil, before they daven Ma'ariv. Why should there be this distinction? I'm assuming because we have the option of Ma'ariv as part of our process. And therefore, we aren't given that leniency and dispensation because we don't know how to say Hamavdil. Men? Okay, you forget. But he's saying
during that paragraph.
So you do Baruch Hamavdil right away.
They can do.
Men can say Baruch Hamavdil, but he's saying
Can't do any work.
Women who are doing non-work that isn't stressed out, you don't have to go stop them. Okay, as a rule, you should teach them. But men should be stopped from doing even easy work. They should be stopped from doing because Ma'ariv is part of their process. And if they forgot Ma'ariv, they should say Baruch Hamavdil. Men don't have that excuse, so to speak. Now, B'chol Bal Nefesh, anyone who Bal Nefesh literally means a master of the soul, meaning he's a person who wants to be extra particular. Yachber Latzma should be stringent on himself. Not to light flames. Without doing any work. Before the order of Kedusha in the Siddur. The order of Kedusha, of course, is the what's the paragraph called? Volitzion, right? Vata Kodesh. Sorry, Vata Kodesh. And then it goes on to say Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. Right? We say that paragraph of Vata Shabbos. That's called Seder Kedusha. We say it also after Asher and Shachris. In the Volitzion, we describe the order of Kedusha of the angels. We say it also in Kedusha by the repetition of Amida, but it's also in that paragraph there where we describe the angels would say this, and we translate it into Aramaic. So one shouldn't do work before saying that paragraph. Even though you already made Havdalah in your davening, in your Arvit, in Shemon Esrei. Sorry?
Even if
Yes. This is a stringency. It's not halach, it's a stringency. The Gam Amar HaMavdil, and you also said Hamavdil B'Kodesh L'Chol. Right? Nonetheless, there's a stringency here. And he says, anyone who does work before that paragraph at the Kadosh, will not see benefit or blessing from the work he's doing in between that small space. It's a small little tiny time. It's between
Where's that?
right after the Shemon Esrei, We say Vayinoyam,
Oh.
and then we say V'ata Kodesh. And in V'ata Kodesh, we describe the order of Kedusha the same way we do by Volatzion. It's the same paragraph, right? We say V'amrin Kadosh Daimon Dain, V'amrin Kadosh Olam Maya. We say the whole Kedusha order of the angels, which we say also by the repetition of Midah. We say it there with translation. So doing work before then, even though you already did.
Oh, right, yes.
It's a small little gap.
Yeah, yeah.
It's only a few minutes between.
The great pages.
It's basically just don't turn your car on during Kaddish. It's a small break between the Amida and the very right afterwards is about the Kaddish. The only thing you should do is the only thing allowed, moving the candle and the like, that's certainly allowed right after Havdalah or after he said Baruch HaMavdil. But doing work before you finish Ma'ariv properly, which is before you said Vat Kodesh, is not a good thing, even though it's permitted. Meshamash HaKnesses, the synagogue caretaker, Rasha the Hadak Neres B'Feis HaKnesses, is allowed to light candles in the shul. Miyad Achashiv the Batfila, as soon as he's done his Ma'ariv Atachan Antanu, Oisha Amar Mavdil, or he said a Mavdil. Even though the community hasn't got to the point where they said V'ata Kodesh. They said, why? Because it's for the community. It's a mitzvah. So if the lights went out, someone can say Baruch HaMavdil before Ma'ariv and go to the lights on for sure. Because they need the lights. But at least wait for the community to say Baruch Hu, the beginning of Ma'ariv, before he turns the lights on. Okay. So these are some halachas about refraining from work before one says goodbye to the Shabbos. And tomorrow, there's only two more halachas. If you go through them quickly, you have 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, let's finish them quickly. There are some people who have the custom lidlois mayim b'chomas Shabbos maberis mayonis to draw water from the wells and natural springs on Saturday night on Matzah Shabbos. The Fish Amru, Chachamim, because our sages say shebe'eder shel Miriam, the well of Miriam from the desert, shehi b'yama shel Tveria, which is in the sea of Tveria, that's the Kinneret. He mechazeres b'chomas Shabbos. It goes through, it travels every Saturday night, al kol ha'be'eres mayonis, into all the wells and rivers. This is more like a spiritual thing. And anybody that encounters it and drinks this is healed from this Matzah Shabbos water because it's like extended from the Be'er of Miriam. Okay? Therefore, the custom is Shabbos to draw water from the well on Saturday night, because perhaps they will chance upon the wells of Miriam.
Today, regular tap.
Sorry?
Opening the faucet today with the faucet.
So I don't know if that means.
In the country, it's
I don't
possible.
draw water.
You're drawing in well water.
Yeah, I don't know how this works today.
Sure, yeah.
I know my mother. I have to ask her where this comes from, but
I know some people.
my mother would empty out all the hot water in the tank on Matzah Shabbos. I don't think it comes from here. I have to ask her about
water
that.
heater tank?
She would run the hot water in the sink till it ran out until it became cold. She probably still does it.
Right.
I actually have to ask her what that's from. I've been to ask her for a while. But
That means in the country, where we have well water.
I mean, up north.
Yeah.
So it's a custom. Okay, last halacha, Misha Moisef B'chil Al Kodesh Harbe, someone who is extending a Shabbos very long. In Mutter Lemon Misha Hivdil, Shivashaloi. So whether it's permitted to ask someone who's already made Havdalah to cook for him, and allow him to eat right away, from this hot food, it'll be explained in chapter 263, where it describes that actually one is allowed to, someone who's in Shabbos, because I've extended it, is allowed to ask someone who's outside of Shabbos, because they did Havdalah, to cook for them. You can look in footnote 86, where he says there, and that source, the Alter Rebbe states that both these actions are permissible. He adds that this leniency is granted even when one prolongs the Shabbos, extending the third meal, and he has yet to recite benching, in which he will say the passage asking God for favor us on our day of rest. V'tzei Hashem. So I extended my Shabbos through a meal. So because my Shabbos is still going, when I do benching, I'm going to say V'tzei in benching, even though it's 2 hours after Shabbos is over. Nonetheless, I can still ask someone else, can you please make me a hot whatever?
Even though you're still in.
even though I'm still on Shabbos, because for that person, it's out of Shabbos. Okay,
And you eat that as part of your Shabbos?
why not?
No.
Yeah, I eat it right away.
Just
Yeah.
one.
Yep.
Yeah.
See also subsection 15 above, which states that even though a person is prolonging his observance of the Shabbos, he is not bound by the prohibitions involving speech. We said that before. Thus, one may instruct someone else to perform forbidden labor on his behalf, because for that person, it's not forbidden either, because the Shabbos is over. There's the point. Okay, Yid, have a good Chodesh, a Chodesh Tov, and tomorrow morning, God willing, we will get back to our Gemara, which some of it's actually related to what we learned here, which is about Havdalah related to the meal that one eats on Rosh Shabbos.
So we're finished with this.
The chapter we completed, yes.
You
can take it, yeah, absolutely.
I started studying this yesterday.